This is a map of San Francisco. There's a lot of plots on that. You may be asking, what is that plotting? Well, this is an app where they plot the human feces that are found on the streets of San Francisco. And you see how almost the whole thing is covered.
I think it's important to folks watching. They're probably wondering, what are we actually doing here? And I want to answer that very directly. I'll tell you why I'm here. I'm here to tell the truth about the Biden-Harris record and also compare and contrast Ron DeSantis' record and the Republican Party's record as a point of contrast that's as different as daylight and darkness. You want to bring us back to a pre-1960s world, America in reverse.
So I was talking to a fella who had made the move from California to Florida, and he was telling me that Florida is much better governed, safer, better budget, lower taxes, all this stuff. And he was really happy with the quality of life. And then he paused and he said, oh, by the way, I'm Gavin Newsom's father-in-law. So we do count Gavin's in-laws as some of the people that have fled California and come to the state of Florida.
As you try to get tough,
we said that
out Trump.
Let's go back to the homelessness.
issue of homelessness has been an issue for decades in the making in the state of California, ever since we started shuttering down our mental health institutions back in the day, in Ronald Reagan's day. The difference is I'm the first governor in California history to take this head on.
His kids were in private school. They were in class in person.
We'll get to
he locked people out because of the teachers' union. He is owned by the teachers' union. You will never.
I don't like the way you demean people. I don't like the way you demean the LGBTQ community. I don't like the way you demean and humiliate people you disagree with, Ron.
Biden is in the pocket of the teachers' union, and so is Kamala Harris. That's why they fought school openings when he came in there. When they had that in there.
It's Kamala
Biden came
Harris,
into office and he brought in the teacher union to be able to do all these different things.
You want to weaponize grievance. You are focusing on false separateness. You in particular, Ron, are on a banning binge, a cultural purge, intimidating and humiliating people you disagree with. You and President Trump are really trying to light democracy on fire. So
there was a notice from the state government telling all EV owners, do not plug in your EV because they don't have enough grid capacity.
There are profound differences tonight, and I look forward to engage them. But there's one thing in closing that we have in common is neither of us will be the nominee for our party in 2024.
Governor, great opening statement, but
it did not address
the issue.
What I find offensive, Sean and Ron, what I find offensive is a very significant number of these books happen to be LGBTQ books. A significant number of these books.
They cleaned up the streets. They lined the streets with Chinese flags. They didn't put American flags there. They cleaned everything up. So they're willing to do it for a communist dictator, but they're not willing to do it for their own people.
Tens of thousands of people unnecessarily died.
Don't lie about it. He put the graphic up there. Don't lie about it.
Unnecessarily
you don't need to lie about it.
Because your policies.
Just understand. You don't need to lie about it. No, it's not.
You were a lockdown governor.
No, it's
locked down.
One at a time.
He led the country in school closures, locking kids out of school while he had his own kids in private school in person. Now, he's very good at spinning these tales. He's good at being slick and slippery. He'll tell a blizzard of lies to be able to try to mask the failures. But the reality is they have failed because of his leftist ideology.
I mean, you're running for president of the United States. You're talking down the great state of California. You're talking down one of the great American cities, Los Angeles. That's insulting. And you're doing it because you're trying to obfuscate the facts that you have a higher rate in the state of Florida and the state of California. We got to take some of the lowest crime rates we've had in 50 years.
Gavin Newsom at one point tried to say that California was the freedom state. And I just kind of laughed, like you're locking people down, you're doing all this. But then I thought about it, California does have freedoms that some people don't, that other states don't. You have the freedom to defecate in public in California.
By the way, no, hold on.
It's your turn.
No, let me say, I can handle that. I can handle it. I'm used to that. But you know what? Again, Ron, relax. I can handle it. I'm used to bullying. You're nothing but a bully.
You're a bully.
I understand that. Intimidating and humiliating people, that's your calling card.
Why did you want this? Gavin Newsom was governor or mayor of San Francisco. He put out a 10-year plan like 20 years ago. He was going to end homelessness. Then a few years later, he had another plan. And now he says he's going to do, and it's only gotten worse. In the last 10 years in California, the homeless has gone up 45%. It's gone down in Florida 45%.
Ron has literally the worst mental health system in America, forgive me, outside of Mississippi and Texas. And so with all due respect to being lectured on some of these topics, Ron DeSantis is not the one I'm going to be listening to.
California has one of the lowest literacy rates in the country. In the most recent NAEP exam, Florida came in number 3 for 4th grade reading. California was far, far behind. So you should apologize for not getting your kids in school.
The only person who needs
one
to
at a time, quick
apologize
answer.
is Ron DeSantis.
There are books that were in school.
Hold on. The bottom line is you are on a book banning binge, your state. 1,406 books.
That's what they're doing. But let me just say something about parents' rights, because he says California respects parents' rights. This is rich. He's been telling a lot of whoppers tonight. This may be the biggest. How in the heck is that honoring parents' rights when you're bringing people from out of state to go around their parents' backs and getting life-altering surgeries?
Where's your decency and humanity and grace when it comes to
taking, ripping somebody away
Gentlemen,
from
please.
their families?
Nobody can hear you.
That is the Ron
wrong.
DeSantis
That is
brand. Ask the folks at Disney about freedom and free enterprise. Ask the folks at the Special Olympics that you threatened to fine with $27 million.
Because they were discriminating against the athletes.
Who goes after
those
Special
Olympians
Olympians when it comes to the issue,
Down syndrome,
Ron, of homelessness?
That is wrong. That's being a liberal bully.
Can you explain this migration out of California and going to red state, blue state?
Well, hold on. The last 2 years, more Floridians going to California than Californians going to Florida.
No, I put up on. I put up on the
by the
screen.
way, that's going to be fun to fact check. So we'll just start right there. California has no peers. California dominates. Sizable 21 state populations combined. It's the 5th largest economy in the world. We dominate. Number 1 manufacturing state. We dominate in two-way trade and research and development, access to innovation, more scientists, more researchers, more engineers, more Nobel laureates in the state of California than any other state in the nation, the finest system of higher education. It's the birthplace of life science and biotech and nanotechnology. We dominate in green tech. We dominate in high tech. We dominate in artificial intelligence. So with respect, I think it's an interesting campaign strategy for Ron DeSantis to be bashing a state of 40 million Americans when California simply has no peers.
That's a pretty slick way of not answering your question. He went on a binge of putting out a lot of left-wing platitudes.
I love that he keeps pulling this out. I've seen this. He's been doing this all over the campaign trail. What's wrong with Toni Morrison's books?
It's not banned.
What's wrong? It's not true.
Not.
What's wrong with Amanda Gorman's?
It's not banned.
And the poetry.
1,406.
1,406 books have been banned on your banning binge in the state of Florida. As it relates to parental rights, come on, California, it's in our Constitution, parental engagement. We actually require parental engagement on curriculum development, and we don't. Complete lie. What you're doing is using education as a sword for your cultural purge.
This is one of the most beautiful places on earth, and I think California has more natural advantages than any state in the country. You almost have to try to mess California up. And yeah, that's what Gavin Newsom has done since he's been governor. He's the first governor to ever lose population. They actually, at one point, ran out of U-Hauls in the state of California because so many people were leaving. Of course, he's imposed restrictions on his own people while exempting himself from those restrictions and going to the French Laundry while his people were suffering.
You're absolutely right. Since the 1980s, Republican administrations, Democratic administrations have experienced, under their stewardship, experienced higher gas prices in the state of California. We've been ripped off by big oil.
That was a mouthful. Again, just more lies. But here's the thing. California is the only one that oil companies are gouging. Why aren't they doing that to Georgia or Florida or these other states that have lower gas prices? Because of their policies. You had Disney closed inexplicably for over a year. You were not following science. You were a lockdown governor. You did a lot of damage to your people.
You closed down your beaches, your bars, your restaurants.
False.
It's a fact. You had checkpoints all over the state of Florida. By the way, I didn't say that. Donald Trump laid you out on this. You wore a mask with Donald Trump outside
I'm trying to let it breathe.
in September 2020. He did all of that.
What we've said in Florida is it's inappropriate to tell a kindergartner that their gender is a choice. It's inappropriate to tell a second grader that they may have been born in the wrong body. Now, California has that. They want to have that injected into the elementary school.
Once again, it shows the hypocrisy of Ron DeSantis. Now you're running away from climate change as things have gotten worse. Hurricanes, wildfires, droughts, and floods.
I was walking the streets of San Francisco a couple months ago, and I had some of the cops in San Francisco do a beeline to come over to me, and I didn't know what they were going to say. And they're like, we want to thank you for standing for law enforcement because we don't get that support in the state of California. So people understand quality of life matters. They understand that Florida's doing it right. And I can tell you the numbers speak for themselves.
Let's talk about crime.
Governor, hold on. Governor, wait a minute.
Hold
on a second.
You said a lot of things that were factually untrue, including that 50-year crime low, which is own law enforcement.
You have yet to address the issue, but I asked you twice. You don't want to answer it. But the issue of why the migration out of red states, out of blue states.
We just established more Floridians coming to California in the last 2 years than the
overall.
other.
You had a net loss
you didn't
of 7.
Establish it.
It's a
you
fact.
Just asserted it.
It's a fact.
No, it's not a fact.
By the way, Nikki Haley had you dead to right on this, Ron. Signed an executive order doubling down, saying you're adamantly opposed to fracking, adamantly opposed to offshore oil drilling.
What he's doing in California, what Biden wants to do nationally, is government-dictated green energy policies. They want to kneecap fossil fuels and reliable energy. We've already seen what's happened in California. They have rolling blackouts.